Hi there, I'm Jack Bryant, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline for our Woodworking Practical Arts course that I'm going to be teaching you in these series of videos. So the first thing is why? Why is woodworking and hard crafts part of the Waldorf curriculum? Well, Rudolf Steiner felt that working with the hands was equally important to working with the academic subjects, and often you can teach the academic subjects through handwork. So, for example, in third grade, you could actually be teaching the children how to do measurement, which is part of their curriculum in the third grade, by actually doing measurement and cutting and using the saw. You can teach the children another part of their third grade curriculum, which is the shelter building. And so, for example, maybe build a birdhouse. There's various things that you can do in third grade, even though woodworking typically is not taught in the third grade. In my school, I teach woodworking beginning in fourth grade. However, I can also help the third grade teacher with their projects that the third graders are doing in their farming block and some of their other practical work that they're doing. In the fourth grade, we typically start here because they're past the 9-year change. They're ready to actually meet the physical resistance in front of them. And by working with wood, it gives them an opportunity to meet that physical resistance with their will and to overcome that and to work with that. So that's one of the reasons we begin in fourth grade, is because they're ready. This is where they're meeting the world in front of them, and they're starting to leave behind the early childhood kind of play. So there's a number of projects we can do in the fourth grade that will support their curriculum they're studying in their main lessons. What I do in fourth grade is I teach the fundamental techniques for using the tools, and I try to find something in the fourth grade curriculum that I can have them do, which will give them a practical experience of working with their hands, learning that asymmetrical movement of the hands, and to explore some of that curriculum. So what I do is I kind of focus on the man and animal block that they study in fourth grade, and they create a human being out of wood, and they create an animal or some animals. In fifth grade, I continue with animals, more graceful and beautiful animals, because that really is where the fifth grader is in their developmental stage. The pentathlon games are taught in the fifth grade because it's really about the grace and beauty of the movement of throwing the javelin or throwing the discus or running or wrestling. So grace and beauty is a big theme in fifth grade, and so I continue having them carving the animals, and maybe if depends on where you are, what region you live in, find an animal that's graceful and beautiful, yet easy and simple enough to carve for a fifth grader. And I will be demonstrating all these different projects in future videos so that you'll get a better idea of what we're going to be doing. In sixth grade, now the children are moving away from early childhood, and they're starting to see some of the challenges that becoming, an adolescent they'll face. So one of the things children like to do is they like to make things that are beautiful and useful. They don't want to do some work, just made up work for the sake of having work to do. They want to have a reason for it and a practical use for it. So in sixth grade, I choose to have them carving wooden utensils for cooking. For example, a spoon or a fork or a spatula or chopsticks. And these are very practical and useful things, can be very beautiful, and they can stay with the family and be put into use every day while they're cooking meals. And that gives the child a sense of satisfaction, of pride, of accomplishment, and knowing that they can do it. They may not think they can make something like that when they begin, but at the end, they're they feel accomplished and proud. Now, another project can be done in sixth grade is a clock. Now, a clock is really geometry, and they carve a circle into a wooden board, and then they divide that circle into 12 equal parts. That becomes the numbers on the clock. And then at the end, they put a little electric mechanism that runs off of a battery in the back of it, and they have a useful item there. And it's beautiful, and it can their own design can be whatever they want. And I'll go into some more detail on that in that video. Now moving on into seventh grade. Seventh grade is a time when they're really starting to hit adolescence, and I feel that it's really helpful for a child to acknowledge that they have this inner secret life starting to develop, where they just don't talk to their parents about every single thing that's inside of them. They keep something away and inside of themselves, and they discuss it with their friends and their peers. Boys not so much, but girls definitely do. And yet they're also concerned about their outward appearance, what it looks like on the outside. So this inside-outside thing is going on in the seventh grade. So I have them making a bowl, which has that concave inner place and the beautiful outside shape of the bowl. Another project that I have the seventh grades doing as well is a little treasure box that they carve out of a solid chunk of wood. Now, you could have them use carpentry techniques and build a box and use joinery to connect the corners. But in my case, I think it's more valuable for the kids to actually use their force and their will to dig out and create this inner concave shape of the box. And then on the outside, it's going to be decorated beautifully with leather hinges, leather straps, and that, of course, the details will come with our videos as we get further along. And then finally, in eighth grade, what I'm teaching on woodworking is a sequence of tasks that result in a project being completed. Now, they could be several different things that they could do. What I typically do here is I have them make a three-legged stool. This is something that is not like technologically current. This is old school stuff. And they're able to make something beautiful and useful, and that can last for many, many years. And so another project they could do in the eighth grade that also is a sequence of tasks is to make a one-string instrument, or maybe even a three-string instrument. But I personally would have them do a one-string instrument first, followed by a three-string after they've learned the basic techniques on how to work with a stringed instrument. So that's the lower school grades 3 through 8 possibilities. Now, high school's curriculum can continue the woodworking more as like carpentry work. Now, I'm not going to get into too much of that. For the high school work, I'm going to be doing hard crafts, metal work. I'm going to be doing some woodworking. I'm going to be doing some stone carving, book binding, some leather crafting. So there's a number of hard craft projects to be done in the high school, and I'll cover some of those. Now, adults love to do this kind of work too. And in fact, I find that the adults get as much benefit out of this activity as the children do. Often an adult will never have picked up tools, will never have made anything, and this gives them a sense of accomplishment too. And they can work along with their children or help their children get over little difficulties that they may face. Now, I rarely send projects home with the children for homework. I'd rather have them working right in front of me so I can catch them if they're making a mistake and correct a technique, how to use a tool. If I see something that's unsafe, I can stop that right away before any injuries happen. Although occasionally I will send a project home with the child that's maybe just using sandpaper, because it's really hard to hurt yourself with sandpaper, and that's one of my things that I'm very, very conscious of is safety. Obviously, you don't want the children to cut themselves or hurt each other by unsafe practices. So a teacher really has to develop a series of safety rules and teach the children on an everyday basis how to stay safe in this kind of work. Now, I will say that I've had a number of students over the many years that I've been teaching that do cut themselves. This is kind of a natural thing that happens, unfortunately. And what we want to do is we want to keep the cuts or the injuries minor so that we can simply tape a Band-Aid over it and it's fine. Occasionally, on a rare basis, I have had students have to go to the hospital and to get stitches, and have a little cut sewn back up. And I really don't like that when that happens. It really makes me question, could I have done something better to prepare the child to work safer? And often I will tell a child, I'll look at them and I'll see that they're working in an unsafe manner. Maybe they're using a knife and they're carving towards their own hand. And I see that and I'll tell them, Johnny, please don't carve towards yourself. Now, I really don't want them to learn the hard way. I want them for me to really be a great teacher and teach them all the proper and safe techniques. So I spend a lot of time working on that. Every day the children come in here, I remind them about safety techniques and the safety rules of the wood shop. We'll have a separate video that goes into the depth of all the different safety techniques that we can, and safety things that we can teach the children so that they stay safe. Now, adults cut themselves too. So in the course of doing this work, you have to, as an adult, have to remind yourself every single time that you begin work that there's a danger there. And you don't want to go to the hospital, and you don't want to cut yourself because it hurts, and you definitely don't want your child to see you cut yourself. Now, that's not a good lesson, although it might traumatize the child to the point where they're working very safe, but it also can cause them to be really reluctant to put their will forces into the work. Now, it's really important for a teacher to know the children, to know their temperament. Some children work very fast and they put a lot of effort into their work. Those are the ones that concern me the most about safety. There are other children, they're very reluctant to begin the work. They're very slow at doing the work. I never try to rush the children. So keeping your eye on the project that you're working on is one of the main safety rules. You never want to look away while you're carving with a sharp tool. So again, we'll get into the details about the safety aspects of doing this kind of work in future videos. Now, how is this beneficial to the child? Well, I mentioned it before a little bit, but I'll tell you that the more opportunity that a child gets to meet physical resistance with their will force, this will increase their many-fold benefit that they can apply in all kinds of parts, all other parts of their life in their future. Gives them a sense of accomplishment. They know that they can do things and accomplish things that they never believed that they could do. So it's really important for the opportunity to do something that the child feels challenged by and then succeed at that. Now, the same holds true for adults. Many times we're told when we're children that we can't do something or we don't know how to do something, so therefore why even try? Well, that's really not a very good attitude. And it's always best to try, make a failure, learn from that failure, and continue on. And try it again, and try it again, and again until you have succeeded. And in your failures, you'll learn more than your successes. And you'll carry that into your next project and next project. So hopefully, by the end of watching all the videos that we're going to produce here for you, you'll be fairly skilled at woodworking and working with hard crafts. The videos in themselves are not going to give you everything that you need to know about being a Waldorf woodworking teacher. And my good colleague Jinjin, Song Jinjin, and I have established a woodworking program to teach teachers how to do woodworking and hard crafts and soft crafts. After a series of courses and learning the theory and the practical application of the work that we're doing, then after the course is completed, then you receive a certificate that you've completed the course, and that certificate is recognized by the China Waldorf Forum, and I also have courses here in the United States which are also recognized as legitimate teacher training programs. Now, in that teaching, in that program that we teach, not only are you learning the practical use of the tools and the materials, you're also learning the theory behind why. So, for example, the idea that each child has a temperament and you have to learn what that temperament is doesn't mean that a temperament's going to always stay there in that same temperament. They can change as they grow. Day to day, they can change. So one big mistake that teachers make is to assume that a child is one temperament and that will always be that temperament. That's not true. So you have to learn what temperaments are. Well, that comes in the study of man, the type, of senses, that you have to be able to perceive what you're doing. You have to pay attention. You have to use your eyes, your hand, sense of touch, the warmth and the feel of the wood, the texture of the wood, the smell of the wood as you're working with it. Different wood smells different ways. So, engaging the senses in the children is one of the things that our teacher training teaches our teachers how to really engage the child's senses in the work that they're doing. So teacher training is definitely something that I would recommend to anybody that wants to teach hard crafts or soft crafts in a Waldorf school, because you'll learn all the fundamental principles behind Waldorf teaching. And the other teachers have gone through these trainings. They've learned these principles. They've learned about it. And so a woodworking teacher and a handcraft teacher, they need to know these principles as well. So in the morning, during our teacher training studies and our preparation that we do, we learn the theory and some of the ideas about the human being behind the work that we're doing. So that's an important part of it that you're not going to get so much of in the courses that we're producing here. This is more of a practical work, practical ideas here. And occasionally we might mention some of the theory behind it. So there are often very well-meaning adults that maybe have some woodworking skills themselves. Maybe they know how to do carpentry work. And so they think that they are qualified to be a teacher of woodworking in a Waldorf school. Well, that's not necessarily true, because there's only a little bit of the curriculum that is involving carpentry work. Typically, that's more in the 8th grade and possibly in the upper grades where carpentry is done. What we're doing with the work that we're doing here is more of a sculpting. It's working in three-dimensional form. We're learning how to use the tools in a safe way, and it's definitely not carpentry. So just because a teacher or a parent may be a good carpenter doesn't make them qualified to be a good woodworking teacher. There's quite a bit of preparation that a woodworking teacher needs to do. Many of you that have known me or will get to know me, I often will tell a teacher, you need to make this project 3 times minimum and make it perfectly 3 times before you're ready to be able to teach it to a child. So there's a lot of preparation the teacher has to do. Often I spend many hours making a project and making it over and over again until I find the easiest way to make this project so I can then teach it to the children. So any project that you plan on teaching, you need to be able to make it yourself 3 times at minimum so that you know where the hazards are and where the little tricks to be able to make it easier for the children. So developing your own self is a big part of being a woodworking teacher. Talking to other Waldorf teachers, knowing what kind of curriculum that they're studying in various grades at various ages. This is something that's really advantageous to a woodworking teacher. Then you can really create your own curriculum. You don't have to do exactly what I'm showing you, because this is what I've developed out of my years of experience. But another teacher might find other projects that are more in line with the children that they're working with, or maybe there's certain values at your school that want to be stressed. Maybe, for example, the idea of altruism, of making something and then giving it away as a gift. Now, this is a really very important part of something that we can do here, is that encourage the children to give these projects that they're making to their younger sisters or brothers, maybe their parents, or maybe even classmates that are in grades below them, to gift it to them. This is a wonderful opportunity for the children to feel selfless and to actually make them feel good about making something and giving it. So that's really an important part of the work that we're doing here too. Again, what is the goal of having this in the curriculum? Well, it's not to make some cute little thing that you could go to any store and buy. Okay? I typically don't have my children painting their projects any colors. They keep it natural, and we oil these projects afterwards. We try to make something that really coming out of their imagination. Now, often, almost every single grade that I work with, I tell them stories about either the work that they're going to make, the project they're going to make, the wood that they're working with, and I try to make these stories interesting and have some feeling to the work that they're going to be doing. And I, a lot of times, will not let them know what they're going to be carving at a time. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Depends on the age. Typically in 4th grade, the first project they're making, they don't know what they're going to be making. They're simply using the tools to improve their technique and to learn how to use the tool in a proper way. Eventually, they'll look at the object they're working on, and they'll say, hey, this looks like a whatever it is they're carving. And this is the way that I want the child to be able to form their own conception of the work that they're doing, not place that conception into their mind before they even pick up a tool. That's kind of an important little feature about being a woodworking teacher, is that you don't want to lock them into your concept. You let them form their own concept as much as you can. Well, I think that should give you a picture of what we're going to be doing in this course. You'll be getting to see lots of different projects, lots of different tools, pointers, and ideas that I have developed over my 20 years of experience teaching Waldorf to children. And even though they may not grow up to be a carpenter when they grow up, which is fine, they have got this sense of being able to accomplish something with their own hands. And that is very important. Nowadays, we have so much technology and screens and, stuff that really doesn't teach them how to use their judgment. Okay, they use their thumbs or their fingers to tap into the screens. This does not help them. It does not help with the brain connections that happen. There's many theories out there, and actually there's been research shown that when the children are working with their hands and creating with their hands, that they are able to improve the brain synapse, the little electric spark that jumps from brain cells to brain cells, which will help them develop their intelligence, believe it or not, simply by working with their hands. Now, that's one of the reasons why most people see Waldorf schools as art schools. They're not. we have a lot of art that we do, and having this kind of practical art is just as important as having a visual art or a performing art, in my opinion, and equally important to anything that we're doing in the academic world, or in the curriculum, that is. So that's kind of my opinion, a little bit of an outline of what we're going to be looking at here in the next few videos, and I hope you enjoy it. And remember, always be safe, no matter what. Don't ever forget about safety. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.